At our anniversary party, I stood before everyone and said, "We've been married 19.5 years. My wife corrected me. "No, 20. I looked her in the eye and replied, "No, sweetheart. Our marriage ended 6 months ago." What I revealed next destroyed her world, and she deserved it. My name is Elliot Chambers. I'm 49 years old, and I run Industrial Solutions Corp., a manufacturing company I built from absolutely nothing over the past 18 years. We design and produce industrial equipment for factories across the Midwest. Started in a rented warehouse in Chicago with 2 employees and a dream. Now we have 120 people on payroll and clients in 15 states. Last month, we filed for an IPO valued at $48 million. Everything I touched seemed to turn to gold. Everything except my marriage. Our 20th anniversary party was Claire's idea, naturally. She wanted something big, something memorable, something that would cement her status as the wife of a successful man. She invited 150 people to the Grand Meridian Hotel in downtown Chicago. Our friends, our business associates, her family, mine. The ballroom was decorated with white roses and gold ribbons that probably cost more than my first car. A string quartet played classical music in the corner. Champagne flowed like water. The whole thing screamed wealth and success. I stood at the front of the room with a microphone in my hand, looking out at all those smiling faces. People who thought they knew us. People who thought we were the perfect couple. Claire stood beside me in a red dress that cost $3,000. She looked stunning, radiant, glowing. She was playing the part of the devoted wife to absolute perfection. Our son Liam, 24 years old, sat at a table near the front with his girlfriend Sophie. He looked proud of us. Happy. He had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. None of them did. I raised my glass, and the room gradually quieted down. Conversations faded. People turned to look at us. "Thank you all for being here tonight," I said, my voice steady and calm. Years of presenting to boardrooms had taught me how to project confidence, even when my insides were churning. Claire and I are truly grateful to have so many wonderful people in our lives. Claire smiled that perfect smile of hers and slipped her hand into mine. Her grip was warm, familiar, comforting. It was also a complete lie, just like everything else about her. "Tonight," I continued, "we're celebrating a milestone. Claire and I have been married for 19.5 years. The room stayed quiet, but I saw a few confused glances exchanged. A couple near the bar frowned. Claire's smile faltered just slightly, barely noticeable unless you were looking for it. Her hand squeezed mine a little tighter, a silent warning to correct myself. "No, sweetheart," she said, her voice light and playful, but with an unmistakable edge of nervousness underneath. "It's been 20 years. You're terrible with dates." A few people chuckled politely. They thought I had made an honest mistake. They thought this was just an embarrassing moment for a husband who couldn't remember his own anniversary. I turned to look at her directly. I let the silence stretch out for just a moment too long. Then I smiled, but there was nothing warm about it. "No, Claire," I said calmly, clearly, making sure every single person in that ballroom could hear me. "Our marriage ended 6 months ago." The room didn't just go quiet. It went absolutely dead silent. You could have heard a pin drop on that marble floor. Claire's face froze. Her entire body went rigid beside me. Her hand went limp in mine. I could practically see her brain working overtime, scrambling desperately, trying to figure out if this was some kind of joke, some poorly timed bit of humor that I would laugh off in a second. But I wasn't smiling anymore. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, but the microphone picked it up perfectly and broadcast it to everyone. I pulled my hand away from hers and turned back to the crowd. 6 months ago, I said, my voice carrying across the entire ballroom, I found out my wife was cheating on me. Gasps rippled through the crowd like a shockwave. Someone near the back actually stood up from their chair. A woman I recognized from Claire's book club covered her mouth with both hands. The string quartet stopped playing mid-note. Claire grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks. "Elliot, you need to stop this right now," she hissed through clenched teeth, still trying to maintain some shred of composure. "You're drunk. You're embarrassing yourself." I pulled my arm free and took a step away from her. "I haven't touched a drop tonight, Claire. I wanted to remember every second of this." I turned back to the microphone and the sea of shocked faces staring at us. Some looked horrified. Some looked uncomfortable. And some, if I'm being honest, looked absolutely thrilled at the prospect of witnessing this level of drama unfold in real time. "I know what you're all thinking," I said calmly. "You're thinking maybe this is some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe I'm overreacting to something innocent. Maybe I'm just a paranoid husband who saw his wife talking to another man and jumped to conclusions." I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. I thought the same thing at first, when I noticed she was coming home late. When I saw the credit card charges at hotels I'd never been to. When I found the second cell phone hidden in her gym bag. Claire's face went white, absolutely pale. She took a stumbling step backward, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt. I continued. "Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? You trust them. You believe them when they look you in the eye and tell you everything is fine." I looked directly at my son. Liam was staring at me with his mouth slightly open, confusion and dawning horror written all across his face. This was going to hurt him, and I hated that. But he deserved to know the truth about who his mother really was. Then I installed cameras. I said simply. The room erupted, not with gas this time, but with actual voices. People talking over each other, asking questions, some supporting me, some condemning me for invading privacy. I let them talk for a few seconds, then raised my hand for silence. I installed cameras in our lake cabin. I clarified. The cabin that's in my name. The cabin I bought with my money before we were even married. That cabin. Claire was shaking her head now, backing away from me slowly. No, you're lying. You're making this up. Am I? I held up my phone. Should I show them? Don't you dare, she snarled. And there it was. The real Claire. Not the polished, sophisticated woman who ran charity galas and smiled for the cameras. This was the woman who had been lying to my face for God knows how long. I looked out at the crowd and spotted him. Ryan Porter, 45 years old, divorced, and sitting at a table near the back with some of our mutual business acquaintances. He was frozen in his seat, his face the color of old newspaper. "Ryan," I said into the microphone, "why don't you come up here?" Ryan didn't move, didn't even blink. "Come on, buddy," I said, my voice carrying an edge now. "Don't be shy. Everyone's going to find out anyway." The people at his table turned to look at him. Someone asked him something I couldn't hear. Ryan pushed back from the table and stood up, but he didn't come toward the stage. He headed for the exit, running away. I called after him. "That's what you do best, isn't it?" He stopped, turned around. For a second, I thought he might actually have the guts to say something, but then he just shook his head and kept walking toward the door. Claire suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the microphone from my hand. "Stop it," she screamed. Her voice was shrill, desperate, nothing like the controlled, elegant tone she usually used. "Just stop talking." I let her have the microphone. I didn't need it anymore, because right then, walking through the crowd with the confidence of someone who had nothing to hide, was Alexandria Kane, 40 years old, one of the best divorce attorneys in Chicago, and for the past 4 months, someone I've been getting to know very well. She was wearing a navy blue dress and carrying a leather portfolio. She walked right up to the stage, stepped up beside me, and smiled at the crowd. "Good evening, everyone," Alexandria said smoothly. "My name is Alexandria Kane, and I'm Mr. Chambers' attorney." Claire's eyes went wide, then wider. Then she looked at me with something that might have been betrayal, if she had any right to that emotion. "You brought your lawyer to our anniversary party," she whispered. "Our divorce party," I corrected. "And she's not just my lawyer, Claire." Alexandria slipped her hand into mine. "She's also my girlfriend." The ballroom erupted into chaos. People were standing now, talking loudly, pointing at us. Claire looked like she'd been slapped. Her eyes darted between Alexandria and me, her mouth opening and closing, but no words coming out. "You," she finally managed. "You were cheating on me." I almost laughed. Almost. That's rich coming from you. But no, Claire. Alexandria and I didn't start seeing each other until after I found out about you and Ryan. After I'd already made the decision to end this marriage. I just waited for the right moment to make it public. Claire's face twisted with rage. "You planned this. You planned all of this." "Every detail," I confirmed. "For 6 months." Liam stood up from his table. His face was red, his fists clenched at his sides. "Dad, what the hell is going on? You're embarrassing Mom in front of everyone." My son's words stung, but I'd expected this. Claire had always been good at playing the victim, especially with Liam. "Son, I know this is hard to hear, but your mother has been lying to all of us," Alexandria interrupted smoothly, opening her portfolio. And we have proof. Claire lunged forward. Don't you dare. Alexandria didn't flinch. She pulled out a tablet and handed it to me. Mr. Chambers installed a security system at the family cabin on Lake Geneva 6 months ago. The footage is quite revealing. I held up the tablet so the crowd could see I had it, but I didn't play anything yet. Claire, do you want to tell everyone the truth? Or should I show them? Her eyes were wild now, desperate. She looked around the room like she was searching for an escape route. Then her gaze landed on someone in the crowd, and her expression changed. Hardened. Jason, she called out. Jason, tell them this is insane. My younger brother Jason, 42 years old and currently working as a project manager at my company, was standing near the bar. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. I turned to look at him. Really look at him. Yeah, Jason. Why don't you tell everyone what you know? Jason's face went pale. He shook his head slightly. Elliot, man, I don't. Go ahead, I said, my voice hard as steel. Tell them how you know Ryan. Tell them about the texts I found on Claire's phone. The room went silent again. Everyone was staring at Jason now. Claire took a step back. No, Elliot, don't. But I was done protecting anyone's feelings. I pressed play on the tablet. The screen showed the interior of our cabin, the living room with its stone fireplace and leather couches. The timestamp read 4 months ago. Claire appeared on screen, and she wasn't alone. But it wasn't Ryan with her. It was Jason. The crowd gasped. Someone shouted. Liam made a strangled sound. The video showed them kissing, hands roaming, my wife and my brother in my cabin, on my couch, in my life. I stopped the video. I couldn't watch anymore, even though I'd seen it a dozen times already. My own brother, I said quietly into the microphone. 7 years ago, when Jason was going through his divorce and needed a place to stay, we took him in, gave him a job, helped him get back on his feet. Jason was backing toward the exit now. Elliot, I'm sorry. I never meant. Get out, I said. My voice was calm, but the fury underneath, it was unmistakable. Get out of this party. Get out of my company. Get out of my life. Jason turned and practically ran for the door. The silence that followed Jason's exit was deafening. I could see people pulling out their phones, probably already texting friends who weren't here, spreading the news. This would be all over Chicago by morning. Claire was standing alone now, isolated in the center of the stage like a defendant at trial. Her carefully constructed world was collapsing around her, and she knew it. But I wasn't done yet. There's more, I said, looking out at the crowd. My eyes found Andrea Foster, 44 years old, sitting at a table with some of Claire's other friends. She was watching everything with an expression I couldn't quite read. Andrea, I said. Dr. Andrea Foster. You're Claire's therapist, right? Andrea's face went white. She didn't answer. Actually, Alexandria interjected, pulling another document from her portfolio. Dr. Foster has been Mrs. Chambers' personal therapist for the past 5 years. Isn't that right, doctor? Andrea stood slowly. I'm not at liberty to discuss my patients. Of course not, I said. Doctor-patient confidentiality. Very important. Except when the therapist is actively helping the patient deceive her husband. Andrea's mouth opened. That's not. I would never. Alexandria held up a stack of printed emails. We obtained these through legal discovery. Text messages between Dr. Foster and Mrs. Chambers. Messages where Dr. Foster provided advice on how to hide an affair, how to manipulate guilt responses, how to gaslight a suspicious spouse. The crowd erupted again. Several people were shouting now, expressing their disgust. A woman near the front stood up and pointed at Andrea. You should lose your license. Andrea looked like she might be sick. Those were taken out of context. I was trying to help Claire navigate. Navigate an affair? I asked. That's not therapy, Andrea. That's conspiracy. Claire grabbed my arm again. Stop it. Just stop. You've made your point. I looked down at her hand on my sleeve, then back up at her face. Have I? Because I'm not sure everyone understands yet just how deep your deception goes. I turned to Liam, who was still standing by his table, looking shell-shocked. Son, there's something else you need to know. Liam shook his head. Dad, I can't handle anymore. I know, and I'm sorry, but you deserve the truth. I took a breath. 3 months ago, your mother told me you were doing great in your graduate program at Northwestern. She showed me your progress reports, your grades, everything. Liam's face changed. Guilt flashed across it. Except you weren't in graduate school, were you? I continued. You were kicked out of Northwestern 6 months ago for academic dishonesty. And your mother knew. She covered it up, paid off your debts, and helped you lie to me about it. Liam looked at Claire, betrayal written all over his face. Mom, you said you were going to tell him. You promised. Claire's voice was desperate now. I was protecting you. I didn't want him to be disappointed in you. No, I said firmly. You were protecting yourself. You were using our son's mistakes to keep him dependent on you, to keep him on your side when all of this came out. You were preparing him to be your ally against me. I look back at Liam. Your mother didn't believe in you enough to let you face the consequences and grow from them. She wanted to keep you weak so you'd need her. The room was spinning out of control now. People were shouting, some at Claire, some at Andrea, some just shouting into the chaos. Claire's friends were backing away from her, like she had a contagious disease. Andrea had already slipped out through a side door, probably calling her lawyer. But I had one more bomb to drop. The biggest one. I looked at Liam, who was still standing by his table, his face a mask of confusion and hurt. My son, the boy I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, coached in Little League. The young man I've been so proud of. Liam, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. Come up here, son. He shook his head. Dad, I can't take anymore. Please. I know this is hard, but you need to hear this. Everyone needs to hear this. Liam walked toward the stage slowly, reluctantly. When he reached me, I put my hand on his shoulder. He flinched but didn't pull away. 3 weeks ago, I said into the microphone, your mother told me something that stopped my heart. She said she was pregnant. The crowd gasped. Claire's face went absolutely white. She was thrilled. I continued. She said it was a miracle. After all these years, we were going to have another child. She'd already told her friends, her parents, everyone. She was glowing with joy. I paused, letting the moment build. There was just one problem. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out a medical document. 8 months ago, after I first started suspecting the affair, I had a vasectomy. It's medically impossible for me to father a child. The room exploded. People were standing, shouting, pointing. Liam's mouth fell open. He looked at his mother with absolute horror. You what? Claire's voice was barely a whisper. I got a vasectomy, I repeated, and I didn't tell you. Just like you didn't tell me about Ryan, or Jason, or whoever else you've been sleeping with. Claire stumbled backward, grabbing onto a chair to steady herself. No, that's not. I can't be. Oh, you're pregnant, all right, Alexandria said, holding up another document. We have the medical records to prove it. The question is, whose baby is it? Ryan's? Jason's? Someone else we don't even know about yet. Liam was staring at me now, his eyes wide. Dad, if you had a vasectomy 8 months ago, then that means... It means I wanted to be sure, I said quietly. About everything. I turned to face Liam directly, blocking out everyone else. Son, I need you to know something. When your mother told me she was pregnant, my first thought wasn't about her. It was about you. It was about whether everything I believed about our family was a lie. Liam's voice faltered. What are you saying? I'm saying I had a DNA test done. You and me. I held up another document. The results came back 3 days ago. The entire ballroom went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. You're my son, I said, letting relief show in my voice. Biologically, genetically, in every way that matters. You're mine. Liam's eyes filled with tears. You thought Mom might have. I had to know, I said. She'd been lying to me for so long, about so many things. I had to be certain about you. Liam looked at his mother, and the betrayal in his eyes was devastating. How could you do this to us? How could you make Dad doubt whether I was even his son? Claire reached out toward him. Baby, I never meant. Don't, Liam said, stepping back. Don't call me that. Don't touch me. He turned back to me. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry I defended her. I should have listened to you. I pulled him into a hug. He was shaking. It's okay, son. It's not your fault. None of this is your fault. Over Liam's shoulder, I could see Claire collapsing into a chair, her perfect facade completely shattered. Her parents were standing now, walking toward the exit without even looking at her. Her friends had all but abandoned her. She was alone, exactly as she deserved to be. After Liam stepped away, wiping his eyes, I turned back to face the crowd. Most of Claire's friends had already left. The people remaining were mostly my business associates, a few family members, and the ones who were too fascinated by the drama to leave. Alexandria opened her portfolio again. She'd been quiet for a few minutes, letting me have my moment with Liam, but now she was all business. "There's one more thing everyone should know," Alexandria said. "Mrs. Chambers isn't just an unfaithful wife. She's also a thief." Claire's head snapped up. "What? I never stole anything." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and brought up a bank statement. "Then how do you explain the $470,000 that's missing from various accounts?" The remaining crowd leaned forward, listening intently. "My father," I said, my voice tight with anger, "passed away 14 months ago. Before he died, he set up a trust fund for Liam. $2.3 million, meant to secure our son's future." I looked at Liam. "Your mother couldn't touch that trust directly. It was ironclad, but there were other accounts. My father had set aside money for his own final medical expenses, about $180,000. After he passed, there was $47,000 left. I want to donate it to cancer research in his memory." I turned to glare at Claire. "But that money disappeared. All of it. And I found out where it went." Alexandria pulled out credit card statements and bank records. Cosmetic surgery, $72,000. A trip to Italy with Ryan Porter, $38,000. Designer clothes, jewelry, spa treatments. The rest. Claire was shaking her head frantically. "I was going to pay it back. I just needed." "You stole from a dead man," I said, my voice like ice. "From my father. The man who welcomed you into our family, who treated you like his own daughter. You stole money that was meant to honor his memory and used it to fund your affairs." Even the people who might have sympathized with Claire looked disgusted now. Stealing from the deceased was a bridge too far. "And that's not all," Alexandria continued. "Industrial Solutions Corp. is about to go public. The IPO values the company at $48 million. Mr. Chambers owns 85% of the company. That's roughly $40 million. She paused for effect. Fortunately for Mr. Chambers, he and Mrs. Chambers signed a prenuptial agreement before they married. A very thorough prenuptial agreement that states clearly that in the event of divorce due to infidelity, the unfaithful party receives nothing. No alimony. No assets. Nothing. Claire's face was the color of old newspaper. "No, that can't be right. I own half of everything we built together." "You own nothing," I said flatly. "The house is in my name. The cars are in my name. The cabin where I caught you with my brother is in my name. The company is mine. All of it. We've been married for 20 years. Claire screamed. "You can't just throw me out with nothing." "Watch me," I said. "You'll get exactly what you deserve." "Which is nothing." Alexandria pulled out yet another document. "We'll be filing for divorce first thing Monday morning. We have documentation of multiple affairs, financial fraud, and conspiracy with a licensed therapist to deceive her husband. No judge in Illinois will give you a dime." Claire looked around the room desperately, searching for someone, anyone who might help her. But there was no one left. Even Andrea had abandoned her. "This isn't over," Claire said, her voice shaking with rage. "I'll fight you. I'll take everything." "Good luck with that," I said. "Because in 3 months, when the IPO goes through, I'll be worth millions. And you'll be working at a Walmart trying to afford rent." The party was essentially over now. The catering staff had stopped serving. The string quartet had packed up their instruments, and the remaining guests were gathered in small clusters, whispering and watching the ongoing destruction of Claire's life with morbid fascination. But I had one more revelation to share, one more secret to expose. "There's someone else here tonight who knows more about my wife's extracurricular activities than they've let on," I said into the microphone. My eyes scanned the room until I found her. Brittany Hayes, 35 years old, athletic build, standing near the bar looking like she desperately wanted to disappear. "Brittany," I called out, "why don't you join us up here?" Brittany's face went pale. She shook her head. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" I pulled out my phone and held it up. "Then you won't mind if I read some of these text messages out loud. The ones between you and my wife." Claire lunged at me. "Don't you dare. Elliot, please don't do this." I stepped back, keeping the phone out of her reach. "Why not, Claire? Afraid people will find out that Ryan and Jason weren't your only affairs? That you were also sleeping with your personal trainer?" The remaining crowd gasped. Brittany started backing toward the exit. "See, the interesting thing about Brittany," I continued, is that Claire paid her $32,000 over the past 6 months. I thought it was for her personal training sessions at first. Very expensive personal training sessions. Alexandria pulled out bank statements. But then we looked at the text messages. Messages where Mrs. Chambers discussed leaving her husband, where she talked about starting a new life with Brittany, where she promised that once the divorce went through and she got her settlement, they'd move away together. Liam made a sound of disgust. Mom, what the hell? Claire was shaking her head frantically. It wasn't like that. Brittany was just helping me through a difficult time. We were friends. Friends who shared hotel rooms. I asked. Friends who went on romantic weekends to Lake Tahoe while I was at business conferences. Friends who discussed moving to California together. I turned to Brittany. Tell them the truth. Tell them about the condo you and Claire were planning to buy in San Francisco. The one she promised to pay for with my money. Brittany's composure shattered. I didn't know she was lying to you about everything else. She told me you two had an arrangement. She said you didn't care what she did. An arrangement. I repeated flatly. Is that what she told you? That I was fine with my wife sleeping with half of Chicago. She said the marriage was over in everything but name. Brittany said, her voice desperate. She said she was just waiting for the right time to file for divorce. I laughed bitterly. The right time being after my company went public, and she could take half of $48 million. I looked at Claire with pure contempt. You weren't just unfaithful. You were running a con. You were setting up your exit strategy, making sure you had someone lined up to take care of you after you bled me dry. Claire's face was streaked with tears now, her makeup ruined. I loved you once. I really did. Once, I echoed, but not enough to stay faithful. Not enough to honor the vows we took. Not enough to think about what this would do to our son. I turned to Liam. This is important, son. Your mother didn't just cheat because she fell out of love with me. She cheated because she's broken inside, because she's incapable of being satisfied with what she has. And no matter how much she tries to blame me or justify her actions, this is on her. All of it. Liam nodded slowly. I understand, Dad. Good, I said. Because you need to learn from this. You need to see what happens when someone prioritizes their own selfish desires over the people who love them, when they think the rules don't apply to them. I turned back to the microphone. Brittany was planning to open her own gym. A high-end boutique fitness center in the Gold Coast neighborhood. Price tag, $400,000. And my dear wife promised to finance the whole thing. Brittany closed her eyes. I'm sorry. I should have known it was too good to be true. You should have, I agreed. Because Claire doesn't have $400,000. She doesn't have $4,000. Everything she has, everything she is, was built on my success, my work, my money. And as of tonight, she has access to exactly none of it. Alexandria stepped forward. We've already frozen all joint accounts. Changed passwords on all shared credit cards. Mrs. Chambers will find that her access to the family finances has been completely cut off. Claire's eyes went wide. You can't do that. I need money. You need to get a job, I said coldly. Like everyone else in the world who doesn't have a sugar daddy funding their lifestyle. The ballroom was nearly empty now. Only about 20 people remained, most of them my closest business associates and Liam. Claire stood alone in the center of the stage, a broken woman in a $3,000 dress. But there was still one more piece to this puzzle. One more person who needed to answer for their role in this disaster. Robert and Patricia Donovan, Claire's parents, had been sitting quietly near the back of the room through most of this. Robert was 75, Patricia was 73, and both of them looked like they'd aged a decade in the past hour. Traditional Catholic values, strong moral compasses, and they were watching their daughter's complete moral collapse in real time. I turned to them. Robert, Patricia, I think you need to hear something. Robert stood slowly. We've heard enough, Elliot. Our daughter has shamed us beyond measure. We're going home. Please, I said. Just give me one more minute. Patricia touched her husband's arm, and he sat back down reluctantly. I pulled out my phone and opened a voice recording. 3 weeks ago, when Claire told me she was pregnant, I started carrying a digital recorder with me. I wanted to document everything she said, every lie she told. This recording is from 2 weeks ago, when Claire was on the phone with someone she thought I couldn't hear. I pressed play. Claire's voice filled the room through the sound system. I don't care what you think, her recorded voice said. The pregnancy is perfect timing. Even if Elliot has a prenup, the courts always side with the mother, especially when there's a baby involved. I'll get alimony, Child support, probably half the business anyway, because Illinois is a marital property state. Another voice responded, female, older. It took me a moment to place it, but then I realized it was Andrea, the therapist. What about the DNA test? Andrea asked. If he demands one, then I'll deal with it. Claire's voice interrupted. I'll claim he's being abusive, that he's trying to control me. I'll file a protective order if I have to. The courts eat that stuff up. Judges always believe the pregnant wife over the husband. Robert's face had gone red. Patricia covered her mouth with both hands. The recording continued. Besides, my parents will back me up. They always do. They'll testify that Elliot was neglectful, that I was unhappy, that I deserved better. They'll help me paint him as the bad guy. I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute. Robert stood up again, this time shaking with rage. You were going to use us? Use your own parents to lie in court. Claire reached toward him. Daddy, I didn't mean. Don't, Robert said, his voice sharp as a knife. Don't call me that. Don't speak to me at all. He walked toward the stage, and for a moment I thought he might actually strike her. But instead, he stopped a few feet away and looked at her with such disappointment that even I felt uncomfortable. Your mother and I raised you in the church, Robert said. We taught you about honor, integrity, faithfulness. We showed you what a good marriage looks like. We gave you every advantage, every opportunity. His voice broke slightly. And you repaid us by becoming this. A liar, a cheat, a manipulator who would use her own parents as pawns in her schemes. Patricia stood and joined her husband. We're ashamed of you, Claire. Truly ashamed. And we want you to know that we support Elliot completely in this divorce. Claire's face crumpled. Mom, please. I'm your daughter. No, Patricia said firmly. Our daughter would never have done these things. Our daughter had values, principles. The woman standing in front of me is a stranger. Robert pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and handed it to Alexandria. This is a letter stating that we will not be providing any financial support to Claire during or after the divorce proceedings. She won't be moving in with us. She won't be getting money from us. As far as we're concerned, she made her choices, and now she can live with the consequences. He turned to me. Elliot, you've been a good husband and a good father. You didn't deserve any of this. Patricia and I will testify on your behalf if it comes to that, and we'll continue to be in Liam's life if he wants us. I shook his hand. Thank you, Robert. That means more than you know. The Donovans walked out of the ballroom with their heads held high, leaving their daughter sobbing on the stage. Claire collapsed into a chair, her entire body shaking with sobs. Everything she'd built, every relationship she'd cultivated, every bridge she could have used to escape this disaster was burned to ashes. 3 days after the anniversary party that became a divorce announcement, I sat in my office at Industrial Solutions Corp., staring at the Chicago skyline through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The city looked the same as it always had, but everything in my world had fundamentally changed. My phone had been ringing nonstop. News of the party had spread like wildfire through our social circles, then jumped to local business networks, and finally made it to a few gossip blogs. Everyone wanted to know the details, wanted to confirm what they'd heard, wanted to pick a side. I ignored most of the calls. The ones I did answer were from my lawyers. Alexandria had been busy. Divorce papers were filed Monday morning, exactly as promised. Claire had been served at the house, which was no longer her house. I'd had the locks changed Sunday morning while she was staying at a hotel on her own dime. A knock on my office door interrupted my thoughts. Come in, I called. Liam entered, looking tired but more composed than he had 3 days ago. He'd been staying with me in my downtown apartment, refusing to have any contact with his mother. Hey, Dad, got a minute? Always, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. How are you holding up? Liam sat down and rubbed his face. I don't know. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I keep thinking about all the time she lied to my face, and I just believed her. That's not your fault, I said firmly. You trusted your mother because that's what sons are supposed to do. She's the one who violated that trust. I know, Liam said, but I keep wondering what else she lied about. Like, my whole childhood. Was any of it real? I leaned forward. Your childhood was real, son. The baseball games I coached, the fishing trips we took, the nights we stayed up building that treehouse in the backyard. Those were all real. Your mother's betrayal doesn't erase the good memories. It just means we have to build new ones without her. Liam nodded slowly. I've been thinking about school. Northwestern said they consider readmitting me for the spring semester if I retake the classes I cheated in and write a formal appeal. That's good news, I said, genuinely pleased. Yeah, but I don't want you to pay for it, Liam said quickly. Mom stole from you, from Grandpa's memory, from everyone. I want to earn my way back. I already applied for a job at Anderson Manufacturing. They're one of our suppliers, and they said they'd hire me in their quality control department. I felt pride swell in my chest. You don't have to do that. I can afford. I know you can, Liam interrupted, but I need to. I need to prove to myself that I can work for something instead of having it handed to me. Mom always made things easy for me, covered up my mistakes, and look where that got me. I want to be more like you. I want to earn what I have. I stood up and walked around the desk, pulling Liam into a hug. I'm proud of you, son. More proud than you know. Thanks, Dad, Liam said, his voice thick with emotion but steady. No tears, just determination. I'm going to make this right. I'm going to be the kind of man you can be proud of. You already are, I said. After Liam left, I turned back to my computer and opened an email from my CFO. The IPO paperwork was progressing smoothly. Barring any unforeseen complications, Industrial Solutions Corp would go public in exactly 92 days. The valuation had actually increased to $51 million based on our recent contract wins. My 85% stake would be worth roughly $43 million. Claire would get exactly zero. My phone buzzed with a text from Alexandria. Judge approved the restraining order. Claire can't come within 500 feet of you, Liam, or the business. Also, Andrea Foster's medical license is under review by the state board. The ethics committee is very interested in her text messages. I smiled. Justice was being served, piece by piece. Another text came through. This one from an unknown number. This is Claire. Please, can we talk? I'm staying at the Comfort Inn on Route 90. I have nothing. No money. No friends. Nowhere to go. Please. I deleted the message without responding. She'd made her choices. Now she could live with the consequences. 4 months later, I stood in front of the New York Stock Exchange with Liam by my side. The IPO had gone better than anyone expected. Industrial Solutions Corp opened at $62 a share, and by the end of the first day of trading, my 85% stake was worth just over $53 million. I'd built something real, something that would last, something that couldn't be taken away by lies or betrayal. Liam had earned his way back into Northwestern. He was working full-time at Anderson Manufacturing, attending night classes, and maintaining a 4.0 GPA. The kid who'd cheated his way through school had become a man who understood the value of honest work. The divorce had been finalized 2 weeks earlier. Claire tried to fight it, hired 3 different lawyers who all eventually quit when they realized there was no case to make. The prenup was ironclad. The evidence of her infidelity was overwhelming. She walked away with nothing except her personal belongings and a reputation that would follow her for the rest of her life. Last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office in the suburbs, living in a studio apartment, and trying to convince anyone who would listen that I had somehow wronged her. No one believed her. Ryan had moved to another state. Jason tried to reach out once through a mutual friend, apologizing and asking for another chance. I told the friend to tell Jason that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. Andrea Foster lost her license to practice therapy. The state board found that she'd violated multiple ethical guidelines by actively helping Claire deceive me. She was facing a civil lawsuit from 2 other former clients who came forward with similar stories. Brittany closed her social media accounts and disappeared. I heard through the grapevine that she'd moved back to her hometown in Ohio. Robert and Patricia stayed in touch with Liam and me. They came to his graduation when he finally completed his degree. They apologized at least once a week for their daughter's actions. I kept telling them it wasn't their fault, and eventually they started to believe me. Alexandria and I were still together. We took things slow, building a relationship based on honesty and trust instead of secrets and lies. She'd been there through the worst of it, and now she got a share in the best of it. What are you thinking about? Alexandria asked, slipping her hand into mine as we stood on the trading floor watching the stock ticker. I'm thinking about how sometimes you have to lose everything to realize what actually matters, I said. And what matters? She asked with a smile. Integrity, I said. Honor. Doing the right thing, even when it's hard. Being the kind of man my son can look up to. Liam overheard and grinned. You've always been that man, Dad. I just had to grow up enough to see it. We celebrated that night at a steakhouse in Manhattan. Just the three of us. No pretense, no show, no need to impress anyone. Just good food, good company, and the knowledge that we'd survive the storm and come out stronger. I thought about Claire once during dinner. Wondered if she ever regretted her choices. Wondered if she understood what she'd thrown away. Then I looked at Liam laughing at something Alexandria said, and at Alexandria looking at me with genuine affection, and I realized I didn't care what Claire thought anymore. I'd taken back my life. I'd rebuilt my relationship with my son. I'd found someone who valued honesty as much as I did. The future stretched out before me, full of possibility and free from deception. And that was worth more than any amount of money could ever buy.